You are listening to The Art of Sales. Everyone sells every day, and this is your source for conversational, real-world sales and prospecting methods that you are comfortable using and that get results. You'll help people buy instead of pushing them into being sold. Here's your host, Art Subcheck.
Here's a question for you. Do you know where you really stand right now with the prospects in your follow-up files? Come on, really now. No, I'm not trying to make you feel bad, but my experience is that many sales reps have no clue where they are in the sales process with the majority of the people that they're following up with. But they continue to call, continue to leave voicemail messages like, hey, I'm just checking in with you, wondering how it's going. They continue to email, did you see my last email? Or wanted to be sure you got my last email. All the while just hoping that something's going to happen. It's like running on a treadmill. There's lots of activity, but you don't go anywhere. And it's exhausting. Actually, the treadmill is a lot better since at least you're accomplishing something physically. More people should do it. Anyway, I digress. Okay, so although some sales reps argue that at least they're making contact and they're having a touch with their prospects through their messages, I don't agree with that. Here's why. First, repeated messages with no value position you as a vendor. A salesperson whose goal is to just sell them something. The more you call to just check in, the more the image of the stalker salesperson is formed in their mind. Next, you waste time and money on a couple different levels. First, let me make the assumption that many of these prospects never are going to do anything with you, and that's just based on experience. Therefore, you're throwing away time, which translates into money by continuing to stalk them. Call them. Not only are you wasting the time when you actually do reach them, if you do reach them, but more importantly, let's look at all of the attempts and messages that you leave, and then the prep time for each of those calls. All right, so what should we be doing? Well, you always determine the success of your follow-up while you're still speaking with someone. If nothing happens during this conversation, why would they be available for a follow-up? We've got to gauge the temperature of the prospect and then get a feel of precisely where we are with them. I found it's always best to let the prospect tell you that. Let them tell you their perception of the progress of the sales cycle and what the next steps should be. For example, when you reach the point where you feel things have moved along sufficiently, then you can ask them things like, so where are we right now? Where do we sit right now? How far do you feel we've progressed to this point? How close are we to making this happen? What do you feel the next step should be? What next? What needs to happen on your end for this to move forward? How do you see us proceeding? Now, assuming you've done this and you've gotten good response, you've gotten good information, and the person really is an actual good prospect, then what? Well, let me share with you a real situation that a listener had posed to me. And he said, Art, I manage 3 guys that are on the phone every day and talking to the top executives in companies worldwide. I'm continuously working on my verbal communication as well as theirs. As you can imagine, we have to follow up with our contacts and have found that it is common for these guys to say they are calling back to touch base, or when is a good time for me to get back in contact to touch base and see how things have progressed. So what suggestions would you have to replace those words? He said, to me, touch base is a game that you may have played when you were younger on the playground at recess, and they may be losing their prospect's attention when the prospect realizes that they are just touching base. Okay, well, to tie this into what I had just covered, I always say, again, the success of your follow-up is in direct relation to the success of the previous call and what is to happen next. So that involves getting a commitment that they, the prospect, will do something and that you are going to do something as a result of this call. Then you can follow up with, I'm calling to continue our conversation of last week where we had discussed, then you'd fill in the blank there, and you were going to review the statistics I sent you. I'd like to go through those with you, and I've got some additional information I believe you'll find beneficial. So on your follow-up calls, it's important to remember that your prospects are likely not doing their pre-call planning like you are. So therefore, you can't assume they're in the same frame of mind as you when your call arrives. And actually, you should assume that they might not even remember you. So then you'll make it a point to briefly review where you left the previous conversation. You could say something like, so the last time we spoke, you had shown interest in, or I'm calling to continue our conversation from last week where we had discussed, and you were going to, all right, so feel free to tweet this one out. When it comes to sales follow-ups, activity is not accomplishment. And worse, it could be costly. So use these ideas to move your prospects forward and your sales higher. Oh, and better yet, if you feel like you really need to work on follow-up, and if you want tons of ideas on how to make your follow-ups more effective and move your prospects and customers to a yes and a close more quickly, I've prepared an audio training workshop for you. And it's called How to Turn More Follow-Up Calls into Sales, Techniques for Moving to a Close More Quickly. It's a 56-minute audio training workshop giving you the blueprint and the word-for-word messaging to set up next actions on initial calls. And actually, when those are not there, that's a main reason that people ignore you later. And then the audio also goes into how to have more successful follow-ups that move buyers to close more quickly. So you can see that at, I'll give you this link, theartofsales.com/follow-up. All one word there. theartofsales.com/follow-up. Okay, hey, you know what time it is.
Your attitude will be iron every way. You'll never feel what they say. It's the art of the sales quote of the day.
That's right. It's time for the quote of the day. Today's quote comes from Bernard Kelvin Clive, who's a personal branding and digital publishing expert. And this is probably one of our shortest quotes ever. Bernard says, either you follow up or you fold up. That's pretty good. Either you follow up or you fold up. Hey, if you're the type of person that likes to help others, and I believe you are, let someone know about this show who could benefit from it. Send them to our show sites, theartofsales.com, theartofsales.com. Have them subscribe, or you probably can't have them do anything, but suggest they subscribe. And if you haven't already, do subscribe so that you don't miss an episode. Thank you so much for investing your valuable sales time with me. Until next time, go out and make it your best sales day ever. I'm Art Sobczak.